Hey everyone, Leo Bond here. I'm back again today, and this time I'm taking a very quick look at what for me is a really fun watch. And honestly, it's also a very cheap watch, but it's one that I like a whole lot and have liked for many years because it really brings back a lot of pretty cool memories for me. I had one of these several years ago, I think actually a couple of different times that I had one of these. And anyway, of course, it is the Timex Ironman Triathlon, a very tough digital watch that's been around for an absolute age. It has changed up its look a few times over the years, but I recently found this brand new one, so it is my own watch, not something that was sent in for review by someone else. And it's actually in the retro style from a few years back, and I didn't even really think that they were still in production in this particular styling. But anyway, back in the day, I believe I had a black watch with blue trim, much like another chap that you may have heard of who also appreciated this particular watch, and that is none other than the former president himself, Bill Clinton. So yes, the Timex Ironman Triathlon is actually a presidential watch. How about that? Now, just a quick disclaimer, although I do think it's pretty cool that a sitting president actually wore one of these watches every single day, the fact that I'm bringing it up should in no way be considered an endorsement of Bill Clinton, and I'm also not knocking him. I just think it's a really interesting fact about this watch. Anyway, another thing that really makes this watch cool, particularly in the era when I first discovered it, is Timex's Indiglo Nightlight technology. And when the Ironman Triathlon first came out, which I believe was around the mid-1980s, I think 86 or so, it just had a normal backlighting feature, one of those sad little corner jobbies that just barely allows you to see the time in the dark. But in 1992, Timex introduced its innovative new electroluminescence technology called the Indiglo Nightlight, which essentially lights up the entire face of the watch very brightly, and I'll just edit in some footage here so that you can see how well that works. Now, the name Indiglo basically just comes from the color indigo, sort of a blue-green color that the Indiglo Nightlight would glow up in. And I have to say, this nightlight feature was what really put the Ironman Triathlon watch on my radar. At the time, Timex used to advertise an awful lot on television, and I don't think I've seen a Timex commercial for many years, but in the early 90s, they used to do a lot of TV advertising, and their very cool slogan was, Timex, it takes a lickin' and keeps on tickin'. And to be perfectly honest, Timex was not lying. Back when I had one of these watches originally, and like I say, it was probably a couple of different occasions that I had one, the two main attractions to these things were, number one, the Indiglo Nightlight feature, and number two, their toughness and durability. Now, it's no Casio G-Shock, it's really not quite as thick and resin padded as those watches are, and maybe I'll just put my similarly styled G-Shock watch next to the Timex just so you can get an idea. It also might help you to understand the size somewhat because I'm not really going to do measurements. But anyway, these Ironman watches are more than durable enough for some hard everyday use. I played numerous hours of ground hockey while wearing one of these, sometimes even timing the games with the stopwatch feature if we were trying to stick to like a 20-minute time limit or something like that. And I wore it in the woods, hiking, hunting, all that kind of stuff. I was very active back in the day, and I know that I put my Ironman through a heck of a lot back then, and it was always more than up to the challenge. So I really just can't recommend this thing highly enough. Now, I do just want to quickly run down some of the additional features of the Ironman, aside from the Indiglo Nightlight, and primarily what this watch is a digital chronograph for athletes. The entire premise of the watch is as a stopwatch for triathletes to time their running, biking, and swimming events. So for things like time and lapse when you're training for something, or timing the actual competition itself, or really anything along those lines whatsoever. Now, I don't use this watch for that sort of thing myself, but the stopwatch feature does have an 8-lap memory, so you can keep track of your lap times if you're running around a track or whatever. And the modern version of this watch actually has a 30-lap memory, so that's one of the ways in which the newer models have improved on the Ironman concept over the years. Still, one of the things that I really like about this particular model is that it's not just retro in its look, but also in the features that it offers. Now, other features include your typical digital watch stuff like the day and date, the option to use either the 12 or 24-hour sort of military time scale, a little beeping alarm sound that you can set to remind yourself to do something like, hey, it's time to take your pill or whatever. And of course, it's a quartz watch, so highly accurate, I've only had this thing for about 3 months now, but it seems to be within about 15 seconds per month, so that's very, very good. It is rated for 100 meters of water resistance, so you can use it to time your swimming if you're doing laps in a swimming pool or whatever, something like that. Overall, it's a very nice watch that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. Now, I usually don't talk about prices because prices can change and fluctuate over time. However, since I did buy this thing myself, I can tell you what I paid for it, and it was $36, so not really bad at all. I feel like I got a pretty good deal, especially considering how I seem to remember these things being quite a bit more than that back several years ago when I first bought. I think they're in the $60 to $80 Canadian range, although the 36 that I paid this time around was in US dollars, so that's probably about $50 Canadian with today's exchange. But anyway, not too bad at all, and I really think this watch is worth picking up. Now, I'll just end off the video with a quick wrist shot for you, and my wrist in inches comes in around the 7¼ to 7½ inch range, so hopefully that helps you with understanding the size of this thing. I didn't do measurements mostly because of the somewhat irregular shape of the case, which means that the number will be different depending on where you measure it from. But anyway, the case width is given in the specs of this watch as being roughly 38 millimeters, if that helps. Anyway, that's all I've got to say for now. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please give it a like or a share. And if you didn't like it for whatever reason, please feel free to leave a thumbs down as well. But also, it would be really great if you could leave a comment below as to how I can improve my videos. Constructive criticism is always appreciated. So, until the next time, this is Leo Bond signing off and saying thanks everyone for watching, and have an excellent day.